Hi, we're here at Magnolia Brewing Company with Dave McLean. He is the founder, and we are at his Dog Patch location, which is in San Francisco. Two locations. You have two locations, one on Haight Street, and this location at Dog Patch. And there's a lot going on back here, so I will tell the viewers what is going on. They're having a private event in this beautiful space. Just inside the other part of the facility is the Smokestack, which is a full-service restaurant with all the barbecue and a lot of goodness in there. So just tell us a little bit about how the brewery got started and a little bit about you.
Sure. Yeah, we started across town over in Haight-Ashbury 20 years ago this year. So we're turning 20 in a few months in November. So we're hitting our 20th anniversary. Most of that time we just were a brew pub over in the Haight with a little 7-barrel brewery down in the basement. And that's still in operation. Still make 3 brews a week over there and still have the brew pub there. About 3 years ago we expanded and added this location. This is a 30-barrel brewery, so quite a bit bigger for us, and it allows us to do a lot of distribution, which we couldn't do out of the Haight-Ashbury brewery. And then we added a restaurant and bar to this as well, and it's called Smokestack, like you said, and it's barbecue, beer, and bourbon, basically, whiskey bar as well.
Yeah, it's really spectacular. I've been here for the food, been here for the whiskey, been here for the beer, and then Haight Street has the best hamburger, I think. I'm gonna vote it. I'm going to vote the best hamburger in San Francisco, in my opinion.
Awesome.
So it's my Sunday morning go-to, for sure. Yeah.
I eat a lot of those hamburgers.
They're so good. They're so amazing. So one of the things that we hear over and over, you can't come to San Francisco or live in San Francisco and not love Magnolia Brewing Company. Like the beer, you're a flagship, right? You've been here, you're a staple in the beer community.
Yeah, I guess it's all a matter of perspective, right? I mean, it's been 20 years, so it feels like we've been at it for a long time. I feel old when I stop and think about that. But then I look, and there were breweries going on before us, and there are breweries in the Bay Area that inspired me that that have 10 or 15 years on us.
Yeah.
So that's nice to hear, and it's humbling to know that we've been around that long and are kind of survivors at this point, I think. And the industry was very different 20 years ago than it is now. But yeah, I mean, I feel like if I stop and think about it, I think that in a lot of ways we've accomplished a lot of what I really hoped to do in the beginning, which is to become, to me, being inspired by a lot of English breweries and European breweries. The best ones are just woven into the fabric of the community, right? They just become part of the community, especially if there's a pub associated with it, not just a brewery itself. But, pubs themselves, we have now generations of people that have been coming to Magnolia Pub. I mean, this place over here is only 3 years old, but over time, you just kind of work your way into the vibe of the community and you become part of it. And so, yeah, I think looking back, we feel like we're a pretty San Francisco business.
I think it is a really unique quality to be able to not only blend into the vibe, but sort of set a vibe that has a positive place. And whenever you come into either one of the facilities, you feel like you're home. You feel like you're with your friends. You can hang out. It's just that hometown place. You get great food. So I can see why people continue to believe this. And let's talk a little bit about the beer. What makes your beer? What are your philosophies around the beer? And what are your loves?
Well, again, with the English inspiration, early on in my kind of discovery of beer, I got really into English style beer, sessionable beer, balanced beer. I found, I was living in Boston at the time. This is in the late 80s, early 90s, and I found one place in particular that was highlighting, it was a brew pub that's not there anymore, that was highlighting kind of English bitters, milds, pale ales, things like that. And it was kind of an eye-opener. Super flavorful, low gravity, low alcohol. You can drink a few of them. They were big into cask conditioned beer, which turned me on to cask beer. And then from that, I just sort of went down a rabbit hole of English influence in a lot of our beers. We make a lot of different kinds of beers today. I mean, I know you're drinking a Saison, which is not British at all.
No,
but
it's really, really nice.
So we dabble and play around, but like the kind of heart and soul of Magnolia's brewing aesthetic and kind of the true north of like what excites me about brewing is beers that kind of exhibit some of that English style and English approach to putting a lot of flavor into a small package and having everything be there and present and something where you can taste the malt and taste the hops, taste the flavors from the fermentation, but not necessarily have any one of them super overpowering. And that's sort of the English approach that I fell in love with, and we still kind of gravitate toward that approach, and I think that's a big part of the Magnolia character.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've loved is that it doesn't have any one thing that overpowers. It's not. It's a more of a balanced flavor that blends really well in your palate, and it just feels really nice. It feels wonderful to drink.
Well, it's fun to experiment, and it's fun to try putting unusual ingredients in the beer. It's fun to let the creative muse speak to you and be like, hey, I got this idea for this thing, and I want to see what would it be like if we did this. That's all very fun. It's fun to do really extreme boundary pushing things as well, and like make really big strong beers. We do a lot of that also in the winter months. But to me, one of the things that is important to always remember with beer is like it is this very sociable, kind of community-oriented, democratic beverage. It is something that people come together at pubs and restaurants. They drink 3 or 4 of, and like I, as a brewer and judged a lot of beer events and things like that. I mean, sometimes it's fun to geek out and really taste every little thing in the beer, but sometimes it's the social lubricant for whatever good time you're having. You're out on for a meal with friends. You're on a date or whatever. Whatever it is. It doesn't always. Sometimes it just has to be really well made, super fresh, flawless. No flavor defects, but if a beer is really spot on and everything's working right with it, like it's okay to just be like, yeah, I want to have another one of those. It's not like I don't need to. What should I try this next or that? Like sometimes like a flavor is just working right for you, and a good beer, a lot of times it's just a really fresh and well made beer that you could drink 3 of in a row and feel like, yeah, keep them coming.
One of the things you're known for in San Francisco, and maybe even out of San Francisco, is your collaborations. Everyone we seem to run into is collaborating with you on something, so you have a reputation, obviously, of, well, you must be easy to work with. But people, you do a lot of really great collaborations. Can you talk about that?
Well, I mean, part of that, too, is just the nature of the brewing community in general. I mean, there's a lot of collaboration beers going on. And part of that is also our just having been around for a long time. And the San Francisco beer community was very small for a very long period of time, and only recently has it really kind of exploded. So a lot of us have known each other for a long time. We do a lot with 21st Amendment, and they're, if we've been around 20 years, they've been around, 17 years maybe. So, there are relationships and friendships in the industry, some old like that, some new. It just seems to happen. It's a great industry, it's a great bunch of people, and I think if you're in the right place at the right time with the right people and have a couple beers and some ideas come together. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? Wouldn't it be cool if we did that? This year, somehow, without really planning it out, it's only January 16th, 17th, whatever it is. It's a couple weeks into the year, and we already have more collaborations either have been done or planned this year than I think we've done maybe in any year, and it's only January. So, yeah, it's just it's fun because it's a good way to kind of keep your own brewing knowledge growing and moving forward by working with other people and working with people closely on like recipe development and like technique and you guys do it this way, we do it that way. Yeah. That kind of thing is just part of the ongoing growth of like trying to continue to become a better brewer. So it's fun to do and it's good to do.
So it's SF Beer Week coming up in just a few weeks. What do you have on tap for that? No pun intended.
Yeah, that must happen a lot. We have so much. Beer Week has become a beast, and in a good way, but it's definitely overwhelming. We have at least 4 events going on up at the original Magnolia Pub. We have 3 or 4 events that were in the works here, and then we have all the events we do, like so many breweries do all around town at various other people's festivals and dinners and tap takeovers and meet the brewer nights and things like that, beer releases. We have a couple kind of sort of traditional events, the events we've been doing since the beginning of Beer Week that we just always do now, and so those have become sort of favorites. We do a cask festival that's on Thursday the 16th at Magnolia Pub, and that's 14, 15 casks all put up on the bar, some coming up from our cellar through the beer engine, and anything that doesn't fit down there just up on the bar, gravity dispensed, and source some local casks from people who are other aficionados of cask conditioned beer, and then also bring in some casks from we have some coming from Scotland and the UK and England.
That's exciting.
That's a good one. We love that one.
We might have to come join you for that.
Should. It's an all-day event till the casks run out.
Watch out for that. We're going to go bring you guys with us.
Yeah, please do. And then we have an oyster and beer event. So we release our Oyster Head Stout and it happens to be Valentine's Day this year, so it's like oysters and Valentine's Day kind of works. So we have like 1,500 oysters to shuck, and our oyster stout, other oyster stouts if we can find them. They're sometimes easy to find, sometimes hard to find, but we bring other oyster stouts in if we can get them, and just showcasing one of my favorite pairings, basically. I love oysters and beer, so that's a good one. We have a big barbecue kind of blowout here on the second to last day of Beer Week over here at Smokestack.
Great. Oh, that's perfect.
So it's called Magnolia and Friends, and it's basically showcasing our collaborations both on the food side and the beer side. So we're bringing in some other chef friends to cook some different dishes with us, and then have some various lineup of our collaboration beers, and some of those collaboration brewers will be here.
So basically, we're going to be seeing you every single day of Beer Week. Because us personally, we will be seeing you every day.
Perfect. That's how we like it. It's
You've touched all of our favorite things.
awesome. It's a relentless week. By the end of it, everybody, as you probably know, has sort of a shell shock. Like, is it over yet?
Yeah, I bet.
But it's great. It's just abundance of riches. It's just so much going on for the beer world.
Yeah.
It's hard to not be excited about that.
And you have another great event that we saw on Sunday that looks like so much fun, was the Girl Scout Cookies and Beer. Did I say it right?
Yeah. Pairing a flight of 6 of our beers with 6 Girl Scout cookies, and some of the proceeds go to the Girl Scouts organization. Yeah.
The hard part about that is the passion that goes into the flavors of Girl Scout. I mean, people are very passionate about their flavor of Girl Scout cookies.
I'm kind of a Samoa person.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
That's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Because they left the samples when we were doing the pairing, figuring out the pairings, and I took all the Samoas.
It's hard not
fun. Yeah, it's a good event. Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Do you have any, on the last note, do you have any tips, like a great tip for a home brewer, something that they could do to sort of make a beer that resembles something you're doing here? Or just something that you find is your kind of your go-to tip?
I do, actually. I'm in a sea of hops and obsession with hops these days, and I love them too. But I'm a malt guy, right? I mean, I love malt. I believe beer is mostly malt, well, mostly water, and then second mostly malt. And hops are really the seasoning that interacts with the balances out the residual sweetness from the barley. And granted, you can do a lot with hops, and we do too. But that said, I mean, I just feel like malt is the backbone of beer. Malt's the foundation of beer, and so I think to me, we build our really delicate, sessionable, balanced beers around a really strong foundation of a really good malt, a flavorful base malt. So to me, like the path to a really great beer starts with a really solid foundation of a good base malt. And so I love Maris Otter, English Maris Otter. It's an heirloom malt basically, or another English barley that I like a lot is Golden Promise. And sometimes people use that in small quantities, like 30% Maris Otter or 20% as sort of like as if it was a specialty malt, but to me, like building a beer around a really robust, flavorful base malt is kind of the initial building block, and then you can layer on fermentation-derived flavors, the hop character, whatever techniques you employ. But that's generally my go-to answer is focus on the malt.
That's a great tip. That is a great tip. Well, thank you again, Dave. We really appreciate it. We are having a great time, and we are going to go in and drink some beer and eat some barbecue.